So, have you ever found yourself jumping from watercolor painting one week to maybe drawing the next week, or photography, or 3D printing a few weeks after that? Yeah, that's where I've been at. So, hi, I'm Mark. I'm Opa to my grandkids, and I hope you call me that too. Opa being Dutch for grandpa. So, this is What's Up, Opa? I'm hoping to make this YouTube channel a place where we can celebrate curiosity, family creativity, and some kind and loving advice. So in this first video, I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and my never-ending parade of hobbies. And maybe you'll see a little bit of yourself in this story. And spoiler alert, as I was planning this out and getting ready to record it, making my last notes, I had a big epiphany that I'll share with you here towards the end. A little bit about me. I started out in high school. Probably my first serious hobby was photography. Yearbook photographer, got to do darkroom work, printing photos, things like that. After high school, got married pretty quick. Still married now, going on 48, 49 years. So that's pretty cool. And I got into sketching. Ran across a book of, I forgot who the author was now, but it was a bunch of pen and ink sketches of old barns, things like that. Really got into that. Doing a lot of drawing, copying the way he did things, drawing things of my own, and that kind of led into watercolor painting to give a little color to my pictures. So I dabbled around with that off and on for a few years, and then our own kids came along, 3 sons, and so that kind of consumes a lot of time. So still poked around with it once in a while as time would allow, but mostly it was all about doing stuff with the kids and working a full-time job, a lot of hours at the nuclear plant here near us. So that was a good life with the kids and everything. Did some traveling. We'll talk more about that maybe in some other videos, some of our adventures with that. But then, the kids moved, got married, moved away, started having their own lives. In 2016, I had reached the point where I could retire from the energy company, from the nuclear plant. And an offer kind of came along out of the blue from an old friend who had a contracting company in the nuclear industry, asking me if I wanted to come over to work for a year in the United Arab Emirates over in the Middle East at a nuclear plant that that country was building as a procedure writer, basically. And the money was good, and it just kind of caught me at a really good time in my life, and talked about it with my wife, and so we decided to go for it. I'll talk about this more probably in the future sometime too, but basically it was a year living in a compound. It was very nice. UAE's a wonderful company, but you get a nuclear plant out in the middle of the desert in an oil refinery town. You're living in an apartment complex. There's not a lot of stuff to do, not a lot of opportunities for socializing, especially when you're kind of a introvert by nature the way I am. So I came back from the UAE after a year or so, around 2018 then, and it was great to be home. I buried myself into that cocoon of being back with my wife, seeing my sons and family again, and I got into jewelry making somehow or another. Bracelets, rings, things like that, working with silver and different metals. It was great fun. I really enjoyed it. Not tremendously good at it, but I made some things that, were cool. But I got burnt out for it. The Christmas after I started that, I decided to make bracelets or necklaces for all of the women in the family, in-laws, sisters, nieces, and it was a lot of work. I pulled it off and everybody loved it, but I was burnt out with it by the time Christmas was over. And so not too long after that point, COVID came around with the lockdown, and I was kind of still in my cocoon mode, so I was perfectly happy to just kind of bury myself in my cocoon. My wife was still working at the time yet, so I just did a lot of puttering around the house. Not too long after COVID, grandkids started coming along, which was wonderful. I'll talk more about my grandkids a lot in upcoming videos, but I got into the babysitting in a big way. I'd always been real active with doing stuff with my kids when they were little, because my wife would work a back shift, the way it worked out for us. And so I was used to doing stuff with kids, and nothing really scared me off as far as, grabbing a kid in the diaper bag and taking off. And so it was a wonderful time doing that. And so that went on 5 or 6 years, especially with a couple of my grandsons that were closest here to where we live. A great time, still a great time. But they're getting into kindergarten and first grade now. And so suddenly since last fall, all of a sudden I got a lot of more free time on my hands. So I figured, okay, I'll get into watercolor painting again, And it was starting to cross my mind that, I really need to be socializing and doing stuff. But I got into watercolor painting. When it got close to Christmas, I set all the watercolor stuff aside because I decided I was going to make little keepsake boxes for all 6 of the grandkids, with a picture of them painted on it and a music mechanism inside the box and stuff like that. So, but I got done with that, and I just didn't really feel like getting back into the painting, and so I started messing around. For some reason, something sparked my interest to getting into entry-level 3D printing. So I bought an entry-level 3D printer on a after Christmas sale and started 3D printing things. And then that rabbit hole led me to making these models for these big elaborate spaceships for the, small size characters that you can use as sets for your, tabletop adventure games. And I'd always been a big science fiction fan, so I really jumped into that. Started printing out all these things, building these spaceships. They're going to be way too big for the limited amount of space we have here. And all of a sudden, I kind of got burnt out on that. Near that point, I knew I would have shoulder rotator cuff surgery coming up, so I thought, I need to find some things I can do that, when I'm kind of recuperating from that. And I started digging into solo role-playing games, where kind of a journaling sort of thing. It's a whole another rabbit hole I never knew existed. And started reading up on that. And it's like, this is just so... And so it's at this point that... I was going to take this video in a very positive and funny direction that, hey, it's great to be curious, things like that. I even had some quotes. I have no special talent. I'm only passionately curious, from Albert Einstein. And Maya Angelou, the author of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, she says, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. And those things are absolutely true. But as I was planning out this video and making notes and watching a lot of great YouTube content on how to put together a video and how to kind of show yourself and, get your story across, I had this epiphany that a lot of these hobbies were masking, I think, a little bit of a deeper need, something that had been kind of gnawing at the back of me, that besides my family and my grandkids, my sons, my wife and in-laws, I don't have any friends. And, it sounds kind of pathetic, but I guess it's not really a really unique problem of people of my generation or people of my age or any age, I suppose, in this world. And it's like, I'm missing that personal connection of just somebody I could pick up the phone and call and say, hey, Keith, how's your day going? What you up to? You want to, get together after work and, have a bowl of popcorn down at, the bar here, or, get together with, your wife and my wife, and we, play some cards or something. And I realized I was missing that. And I think a lot of these hobbies I jumped into, I tried to do it with the watercolor painting, with joining the local artist club, but kind of the wrong demographics for me. It was a lot of, elderly ladies, wonderful women, but they kind of had their own thing going and their own connections, and they were way better artists than I, so there wasn't enough there, and I didn't make the effort to really build a bridge to, hey, I'd love to meet your husband, or, whatever. And I think what started me down this path to YouTube is that I come to realize that there's a potential to build a community and make connections with people. And I didn't realize that until just recently. My YouTube experience had been pretty much the kids turn it on and they're watching Mr. Beast, do crazy things, and, Coco Melon videos to help the kids learn numbers or to keep them entertained so I could get something else done. I had never really connected with the idea of a YouTube channel as a community, or as a place to try to build a community and make connections with people. And yeah, it ain't the same as, the guy next door being able to, hey, let's go do somewhere. I got a, project. Why don't you come along and help me with it? But it's a connection. And I think that's what can be positive coming out of this. And so I got to wrap this up. I guess what I'm saying is, if you clicked on my title with the idea of, hey, too many interests, that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Creativity is a wonderful thing, and I never regret trying all the different things I've tried, and all the different things I'm sure I'm going to try at some point in the future. But just make sure it's not masking something else. And that's the epiphany that came to me an hour or so ago when I was thinking through what I wanted to do with this. That, it's great to be curious, it's great to try new things, but in my case, I think it was masking something else. It was compensating for the fact that I did not have a personal connection or feel like I was contributing something of value, putting it out into the world. And I think that's important to do that. I mean, yeah, it's all great to do a role-playing game by myself in my journal, but that's not giving anything to anybody except keeping me occupied for a few hours. So I'm hoping this can be a little bit more than that as this channel hopefully grows and I can do a little more things like this. So anyways, I hope this didn't bore you too much. That I hope you give this a chance. These videos will definitely get better as I start improving my skills. If I get my little microphone shows up from Amazon tomorrow like it's supposed to, the audio quality will get better. And I'm hoping to post videos once or maybe even twice a week once I get rolling. So subscribe if this sounds even remotely interested, so you get notified, when I post something else. It'd be really fantastic if you want to leave a comment, if this resonated with you, or if it bored you to tears, or if you've got ideas of other things I could talk about. I've got a list of a lot of ideas. So hopefully there'll be the opportunity to share that and start building something positive here. So enough of that for now. So you guys, wherever you're watching this, whenever you're watching it, have a great day. And this is Opa signing off. We'll talk to you later.